Hey guys, how are you today? Quick rant before we dive into today's chaos. As some of you might have noticed, YouTube's algorithm has decided I'm not special anymore. Shocking, I know. So now if you don't like, comment, or do a little backflip in the algorithm's honor, this video might just vanish into the void, never to be seen again. Seriously though, even a hi or "this is wild" in the comments helps way more than you think. It tells YouTube, hey, people actually like this channel. Maybe don't hide it from everyone. That can really help push my videos out to a wider audience, not just to my subscribers. So if you enjoy these stories and want to support the channel, that's the best way to do it. Now grab a drink, get comfy, and enjoy the drama. You won't want to miss this one. Apologies for length. Max and I dated for 2 years and have been engaged for 9 months, with the wedding date set for early January. We have a healthy, honest relationship, and I've never had any reason to doubt him. He and Caroline were high school sweethearts who married very young. They were both 22, right out of college. They divorced after 2 years. Max told me that they got married too quickly and didn't realize how different their relationship would be in the real world, i.e., when they were both working full-time jobs and struggling to pay the rent. They split up on good terms, but didn't keep in touch. He remained in our home city, while she pursued a modeling career and began traveling extensively. 3 months ago, Caroline contacted Max over Facebook out of the blue, saying she was in town and wanted to meet for coffee. He agreed. Over coffee, she told him that she had recently been diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer. Her odds of survival were low, but she was determined to fight it through surgery and chemo. She said that all she wanted was for Max to be by her side throughout her treatment. Caroline's parents died shortly after she married Max. She has no siblings, and the rest of her family lives overseas. She described Max as the closest thing to family she has left. I absolutely sympathize with Caroline. The next day, Max had her over to our apartment, and she was completely lovely, clearly trying very hard to be optimistic, even in the face of her life potentially ending before she turns 30. I feel terrible for her, and for the situation that she's in, and I fully supported Max being there for her. Her first surgery was later that month. Max flew across the country. We live on the East Coast, she's on the West, and checked into a hotel a few minutes from her apartment. He's a writer, so working from his laptop is no issue. We spoke on the phone or on Skype almost every day for the 2 weeks he was over there. Caroline had her surgery at the beginning of June. Unfortunately, it was not entirely successful. Her doctors moved to the next method, chemo. Max came home after her surgery to tell me this. He explained that Caroline's treatment plan was set to begin in July and end in late January. It would be an incredibly difficult time period for her, and she wanted him with her at all times. We can't afford to pay for a hotel until January, so he moved into her apartment, sleeping on her sofa. He's been there for the past month, and we continue to Skype, though only a couple times a week now. When we spoke yesterday, Max gently told me that based on Caroline's condition, he wouldn't feel right leaving her so close to the end of her treatment. He'd like for us to postpone the wedding until February at the very least, so that he can stay with her until her treatment is over. I'm so conflicted. I feel awful for resenting Caroline at all. She has cancer. She's suffering immensely. But the resentment is still there. I resent her for needing Max constantly holding her hand, as though she has absolutely no friends of her own. I resent Max, too, for agreeing to this situation. We won't be seeing each other in person for months now, on top of our wedding being postponed. I don't know what to do. I have no idea how I'm supposed to feel. Right now, I'm just full of anger and guilt, and I don't know how to explain it to anyone else in my life. Edit. Everyone seems to be in agreement that this is a completely inappropriate, if incredibly sad, situation that Max isn't handling very well. I'll speak to him either tonight or tomorrow, whenever we Skype next, and tell him in no uncertain terms that I want him to come home. From there, we can decide what to do, since I don't want to leave Caroline high and dry. But him living there until February is out of the question. I understand compassion and wanting to support someone through illness, but there's a difference between helping and moving in with your ex-wife for 7 months while postponing your wedding. That's not kindness, that's emotional entanglement. OP has been incredibly understanding so far, more than most people would be. Caroline's situation is heartbreaking, but she needs medical professionals, friends, or even volunteers. Not her ex-husband acting as a full-time caregiver while he's engaged to someone else. If Max genuinely cared about his and OP's relationship, he'd be finding ways to support her without sacrificing their life together. Instead, he's prioritizing Caroline's needs above OP's, and that's not sustainable. OP is allowed to feel hurt, angry, and uncomfortable. Those feelings don't make OP cruel. They make OP human. OP needs to tell him to come home. If he refuses, that tells OP everything she needs to know about where his loyalty truly lies. And now let's hear Community's opinion. He's intending on living with his ex until February. And you are to do what? Just wait? No, your resentment and discomfort is not wrong. I feel intense sympathy for her, for your partner, absolutely. Death is a terrifying cold thing. But he's supposed to be with you. It was not her right to ask him to be with her as a husband is through this horror. Did she ask you? My fear is, okay, so February comes. Her chemo's done. Now she's weak and miserable from chemo. Is he going to leave her then, feeling like that? He should not have asked you over Skype. He should have been there in person. When is the next time you were supposed to see him? I feel horribly crass saying this, but I can't imagine them living together, as former lovers, near the possible end of her life, and them not sleeping together at some point. Admittedly, she'll be in an awful physical state, but it's such an emotionally charged situation that it's highly likely. It might be a good idea to schedule a couple sessions with an experienced relationship and grief counselor because it's an unusual problem, and if handled inappropriately, it could end your relationship. Edit. Changed marriage to relationship. I think all of you painting Caroline as if she did something wrong are stupid. Max deserves 100% of the blame. Caroline is allowed to ask whoever she wants, whatever she wants to ask them. Max is allowed to say, no, ex-wife. I won't leave my wife to be for you, not now, not ever. And not face any judgment, because what an absurd thing that is to do. OP, I don't know how you can possibly recover from this one. You are not selfish to leave this relationship. You are not selfish to tell him he comes home right now or it's over. You're not selfish to resent him or her for what they've put on you. But you should make sure you understand that he is 100% to blame for this. He, at every moment along this path, should have taken a look around and realized he was engaged to you, not her. And it is not his fault that she has no one closer than him. Also, he's literally living with his ex-wife. Can you imagine any circumstance where a guy leaves his fiance to live with his ex-wife, and they aren't, at the very least, cuddling and extremely emotionally intimate? I'd be done with him if I was you. What an obscenely selfish man. Update. First off, thank you all so much for your advice and words of support. I'm sorry that I couldn't reply to every comment, reply, or PM that I got, but I woke up to a locked post and over 100 unread messages. I promise, I did read through every one of them. Each perspective was incredibly helpful and made me look at the situation in a completely different way. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. I spoke to Max this morning. I told him that as terrible as I feel for Caroline, I don't want him living over there until February. I suggested that we brainstorm some sort of schedule that allowed him to continue visiting her, even postponing our honeymoon and using that money to fund his plane tickets. Several commenters brought up her moving over here for treatment, so I mentioned that as well, offering up our spare bedroom. I emphasized that I didn't fault him for wanting to help an old loved one in what could be her final days, but that I couldn't help but feel marginalized, especially so close to our wedding. Max didn't speak very much, just listened while I rambled on. When I couldn't think of anything else to add, I asked him to please say something, so he told me the truth. Caroline was never stage 4. She was stage 2. He assured me that the rest of his story is true. Caroline asking him to be with her, the initial surgery being unsuccessful, her chemo treatment plan, etc. But apparently her chances of survival are far greater than he led me to believe. Max said he lied because he felt it was the only way I could understand his need to be with her. He thought that if her situation seemed less dire than literal life or death, I wouldn't agree to him essentially moving across the country for her. He admitted to telling her that our wedding had been postponed to next August, giving her the impression that him being away until February would be no problem. He has also been the one insisting on remaining by her side. After her surgery, she had given him permission to return home, saying that it wouldn't be fair to pressure him into living with her throughout her entire chemo treatment, as much as she would have liked him there. He refused to leave. He told her that I supported this decision fully. Max swears that he's not in love with her still, but I just can't believe that. He lied to my face. Before she visited our apartment back in May, he warned me not to mention her being stage 4, as she was still extremely sensitive about it. And I completely bought into that lie. I trusted him. He put his past with her over his future with me. I'll be spending the next few months apartment hunting and canceling wedding plans. Thank you all for your kind words. Edit. I'm blown away by the outpouring of support I'm receiving. I wish I could respond to each of you individually. Thank you so much. This is a wonderful community, and I truly appreciate all of your thoughts. When I, now 23 female, was 18, my brother's girlfriend, 26 female, Jane, got pregnant. The entire family was so happy and supportive. It had been a long road of heartbreak, pain, and strained relationships and expensive treatments, but they pulled through. When baby, Rex, was 4 months old, Jane asked me to babysit because her and her boyfriend were looking at houses. I said yes, as I had previous experience babysitting babies, and Jane and I had a good relationship. It was clear she was worried as a new mother, but I assured her everything would be fine. She had left me bottles of breast milk and formula. After the first feed, Rex puked all over himself. I cleaned him up, gave him a new change of clothes, and everything was fine. Until he puked again 10 minutes later. This time, it got on the floor. I didn't change Rex's clothes. When Jane got back, she wanted a full report. I told her he puked twice. She asked where I put the clothes, and I showed her. When she saw there was only one set of clothes, she got irrationally angry. She started yelling at me for not changing his clothes again after he was sick the second time. I decided to just take it and apologize. She was a hormonal new mother. But her anger didn't stop there. I found out that she had taken a picture of the puke-covered first set of clothes and made a Facebook post blasting me. It was an alt account, but I knew from the clothes and the counters. She said I had left her 4-month-old wallowing in his vomit all day. The comments got so bad that I had to call the police. I told my brother, and he said he gave her a stern talking to. She has since apologized, but it was very much like, "Oh, okay, yes, I'm sorry, there." She claimed it was her crazy baby hormones. I have distanced myself as much as I could from her, but because my family lives so close together, and family is a big emphasis, I couldn't completely cut her out of my life. It's been 4 years, and I still haven't forgiven her. She'll be forgiven when she gives me a real heartfelt apology. Last night, my brother texted me to ask if I could watch Rex for a few hours whilst he went shopping. Jane is on a business trip. I laughed and said, after what happened the first time, duck off. He got annoyed and said it was 4 years ago, and she's not even in the same damn city. I said no. I honestly don't trust Jane. What could happen if she found out? I apologized again and said no. My family are split. They say I'm being petty and ridiculous, and my brother's points about Jane not being around hold up. Even my closest family members are saying I'm being silly. Am I? How do I get across to my family about how devastating that initial incident was to me? Edit. She half doxed me. I say half because she very explicitly said what city, even down to north, south, etc. I was getting R threats, D threats, threats of general violence, because they genuinely thought I was some POS. I absolutely agree with your stand. Regardless of whether Jane starts something similar this time around, babysitting for family is a favor. If somebody craps on you, you stop doing favors for them. It's that simple. The only way you should forgive somebody for an offense is if they show remorse by apologizing sincerely. She's not done that, so there's no indication she has changed her ways or seen her stupidity in the slightest. Why would you put yourself in the position of being open to another attack from this harpy a second time around? Stick to your guns. Family always give that line of, "Oh, just let it go," mostly because it wasn't something that happened to them. So they think that keeping the peace is worth it, because they weren't the ones who were offended. Duck 'em. They can babysit if they care that much. Your brother allowed that craziness and doesn't sound apologetic. He sounds more inconvenienced. Zero benefit to doing it. Obvious consequences and ingratitude if you do. I wanted to tell you about my monsters-in-law and how I finally won this last Christmas. There will be a bit from my own backstory since it's relevant. So, I am originally from Morocco. Growing up, my dad walked out on us, and Mom had to raise us all on her own. She died when I was 11, and I had to live with Dad and his family. Let me tell you, whatever you usually experience with your mother-in-laws, I did with my stepmom. So, by the time I was 18, I had enough experience to know how to deal with them. At 18, I got a full ride and some to Penn State, graduated at 23, and started working straight away. Then, I met my husband. He comes from a very conservative family in Georgia. And while they say they are not are, they 100% are. I knew I was in for a long Cold War. He invited me to their house for Thanksgiving to introduce me to his parents. Made sure to tell his mom that I don't eat anything that has either pork or alcohol in it. And then, when I suggested bringing something, he said that his mom would accommodate me. I had a feeling she wouldn't, so I ate the same way I do before a fast. Their welcome was lukewarm. The whole night was spent with them making ignorant and passive-aggressive comments about me. They had invited his ex and kept heaping compliments on her. Oh, and every single dish had either bacon or wine in it. The effing turkey was wrapped in bacon. The mac and cheese had bacon bits. The mashed potatoes had lard, etc. I said that I was okay, and his mom gave me just water, because apparently they were out of non-alcoholic beverages. They were pissed because I spent the whole time joking, complimenting them and the ex, never complained about the food. Their first plan was a bust. Then, when it was time for Christmas, I was not invited. It was a family-only holiday, you know. The ex was invited, though. I just sent presents with my then-boyfriend and had a wonderful staycation. Fast forward about a year, and they are still throwing the ex at him, not inviting me to family-only parties and get-togethers. When we announced our engagement, his mom was pissed, and so was his sister. His dad just didn't care by then. We decided on a wedding that would combine both our traditions, and since they never bothered to learn about mine, they thought wearing white to my wedding would hurt me. The day of, when they came in white, ex included, and I just gushed about their dresses. You could see their hopes crashing. Then, I started changing dresses and wearing every color of the rainbow in my traditional kaftans. I have this pic with his mom with the most sour face that I just cherish. There were some more minor events along the years. I never complained to my husband and didn't let him get involved, and his mom was getting pretty desperate. Then, the coup de grace was this Christmas. She suggested I host. I agreed. I knew for a fact that she thought I wouldn't be able to handle it. Also, she thought I won't know how to cook a traditional Christmas dinner, since whenever we invite them, and I am the one doing the cooking, I make traditional Moroccan dishes. Well, I made a whole spread. A turkey, glazed ham, mac and cheese, fluffy mashed potatoes, green bean casserole, Brussels sprouts, roasted carrots and potatoes, homemade bread and cornbread, pies for dessert. I also had cookies and cakes and everything. She broke down crying, accusing me of getting catering. Then, when my husband tried to calm her, she just went off, screaming and pushing the food off the table, broke a good portion of our good china. And because her daughter and husband didn't do anything, my husband just threw them out and went no contact. I guess she wasn't ready for a woman whose entire culture made the whole struggle into a part of the culture. That's awesome for you. I wish I had half the patience you do. You are a legend. I don't know you, but I am so proud of you. I hope hubby finally saw their ridiculous antics for what they are. Impressive. I need the details, like what the duck did she say while she was throwing dishes? This is too good. I hate it. Like, how is she justifying her behavior in her mind? Very curious. Also, the ex. What the actual F? How was she at your wedding? Didn't you guys send the invites? Oh, the ex is a long story. So here are the cliff notes. She's a family friend, Was with my husband for 8 years and they loved her. Got pregnant to trap him when he talked about taking a break, even though she knows he doesn't want kids. He ended up dumping her when she miscarried. Had to go to therapy to get over it, and his parents still wanted them to get back together. She came to the wedding as his sister's +1, and was still present almost all the time, even after we married. I guess she too wasn't ready for me. Moroccan women don't have the reputation of being good wives for nothing. I've been reading through recent posts and saw that a lot of people here were hurt by their in-laws' Christmas gifts. Let me tell you about my kind of petty response. Also, keep in mind that I have the disposable income that allows me to be as petty as I want, and that most people actually can't do this. Also, I do not care about Christmas and never wanted their approval, so it didn't really hurt me. The first few months I was with my then boyfriend, I was never invited to Christmas. Even so, I used to send gifts to his parents and sister. You know, get me that goodwill with the hubby. They were stuff like books, subscriptions, you know, just general stuff like you would buy for an office Secret Santa. The first year I was invited, after we got married, I had a feeling they would get me some sucky gifts. I also knew that their extended family would be there and decided, duck the money, I will embarrass them. In my work, I was tipped with some great football tickets that were worth more than $2,000. I decided those were for my father-in-law, since neither I nor my husband liked the sport and didn't need the money from reselling them. For my mother-in-law, I got a Tiffany & Company sterling silver necklace. It cost me a pretty penny, but like I said, disposable income. For my sister-in-law, I got a complete set of Tolkien's works in leather-bound hardcovers. She is a big fan. Christmas morning, I made sure they opened my gifts before I did theirs to me. And you could see them getting shocked and then having to thank me while everyone told them how lucky to have such a sweet daughter-in-law like me. They ended up giving me socks, as in one gift from all three of them, of 2 pairs of fuzzy socks. It was glorious. I pretended like I was putting on a brave face and wore the socks. Didn't say anything, and also made sure my husband won't. The next years, they also expected I would get them sucky gifts, and were again surprised by getting thoughtful, expensive ones. Then, this year, we had a whole mess and ended up not opening gifts. I still sent them over to them. You know, twist that knife in a bit more. Brilliant plan. Kill them with kindness. I think what would be funny is if at the next gift exchange, they actually try and you cheap out. Keep them on their toes. Not sure what you're trying to prove here, but the winner definitely won't be you or your wallet. Context. I have 2 kids, male 5 and female 3. My partner works in the Army and has recently become deceased. This hit emotionally and financially extremely hard. My family supported us emotionally and economically. My mother-in-law, first of all, took complete control over my husband's funeral. Besides, we're not married, she legally had more control over me. She forced us to have a Christian funeral because Christianity is her religion, but neither me or her son was Christian. She refused to invite any of his Army friends, and they all got extremely upset and contacted me, and I gave them a time and date, and they decided to turn up, which angered her immensely. She banned her own grandchildren, which even her husband disagrees with. But when I got there, she had done a seating plan for a funeral, which I just think is extremely crazy. I was in the back row next to great aunts that he had never met. She refused to let me make a speech, but I got up and made one anyway. Many of the cousins sided with me when she tried to kick me out, and she refused to let me watch him get buried. I was escorted over to have exception with my sister-in-law, who has took my side throughout, thank God. A few weeks later, I found out that I had cancer, which really upset me. My children's mother-in-law somehow found out, started acting all nice. I instantly knew this was a manipulative facade, and offered to help with childcare if I needed chemotherapy or surgery. A few weeks later, me and my mom were told I had a surgery date. Unfortunately, that date my parents were both away on their annual cruise, so they could not provide childcare, trying to insist that they would cancel it and needed to support me as much as possible. I did not let them do this, because I knew they would instantly lose their deposit. So I asked my sister-in-law if she would look after my kids. She must have said something to the mother-in-law. This woman has been harassing me for days to let her look after her grandchildren while I am in surgery. So I eventually gave in. I was clearly not thinking straight at all. So a day of surgery comes. My mother-in-law comes over a few hours early, which helps immensely for once. My sister-in-law drives me over to hospital and sits with me until the surgery. So my surgery did not go to plan. I lost a lot of blood and had a few major complications, which meant I was on life support for a week and a half. So when I woke up, my sister-in-law had informed me that my mother-in-law had took in my kid, which is quite helpful, I thought. Until my mother and dad literally told me they refused to let them see their grandchildren. And when I contacted her, she refused for them to come and visit me, for their own health. So I got discharged from the hospital last week and demanded my mother-in-law to return my kids when I got home. So she refused to give me any contact, so I drove around her house. No one was there. She had abducted my kid. So I called the police, and they found her within a few days. During this period, I became unwell and had a full-fledged mental breakdown. But the worst part, I found out that she had told my children that I had died. So she had to have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old believe that both their parents had died. I was disgusted, and I pressed charges with the police. Most of my family thinks I'm in the right, but my sister-in-law texted me just to let it go. What should I do? Do not drop the charges. Take this all the way and make sure that devil woman never sees your children again. Manipulative, lying, hurtful, psycho witch. Keeping the peace with your sister-in-law is not worth letting this go. You protect yourself and your children. Make sure you get the details of times, dates your parents tried to get your kids and were refused. Take the kids to a psychologist and get them help with the trauma of being told you died. This woman literally tried to steal your children. Never let it go and never back down. She may still be breathing, but she should be dead to you. I'm so mad for you right now. I want to break something. Deep breaths. If you let her get away with this, it will escalate. Please press charges. She is a cruel, hateful woman. And I would make that the last time she saw my children, until they are adults and can choose for themselves. Hi guys, thank you so much for all the legal advice and for what I should do. So I thought I should write an update. So a few days after this post, I got my 2-month cancer test results. It was positive again. I was so upset, and I went into thinking it was going to be terminal this time. So I created a will with clear instructions for my children to go in the care of my parents if I die. So back to my mother-in-law. Because I was ill and I was so emotional and cannot feel I could ever take part in a legal battle, I decided to drop charges. My sister-in-law constantly harassed me as well. So after that, I had my surgery. I gave the hospital clear instructions to not let in my mother-in-law for any reason. So I survived my surgery. Once again, I was in intensive care for 2 weeks, and I did not wake up from my surgery for a good week. So when I did, I was horrified to find out I had hundreds of missed calls from my parents, telling me that the mother-in-law applied for full custody of my children. And because I was severely ill, she got granted for custody from a judge. My parents tried to appeal this, but she was richer by quite a lot. In my country, they granted her full custody. I am currently in an extremely malicious legal battle with this woman now to try and get my kids back. She is refusing to let me see them and is trying to get a restraining order against me, which got granted, so there is currently no way for me to see my children. I don't know what to do.